Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And they got away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It's a science thing. It's a science place. It is a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It's time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. To this very festive episode 395. Very excited. I don't have a lot of full bands on to this show because it is much harder and more work for me. So, but when I do, it's because I like them a lot, and that is the case for tonight. I'm really excited to have Noah and Shaun and Nick from Upright Forms on, and we're going to talk about their banger new record, which I think completely kicks ass and is probably one of the better ones of the year. So there's a spoiler alert for you. But before we do that, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I'm your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer who's been touring and recording for 24 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 395. Now, if this is your first time listening to the show, archives of it are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/Protonic Reversal will gladly achieve that goal. If you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around the internet, or even leave a review. All that helps people discover the show. It beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. And it's just a darn nice thing to do. So yeah. Upright Forms. I know all these dudes, but I've only had one of these dudes on the show, and that was Nick, and that was a little ways ago. But they have a Upright Forms, great band from Minneapolis. They have a record called Blurred Wires. I know Noah from the band Blaha. I know Shaun from Mizon Place. I know these guys, and now I'm going to be talking to these guys about their great record. Hey, fellas, welcome to the show.
Hello.
It is. I know that's a weird way to start an intro, but I know you guys from like wildly different epochs of time within my life, and I find that interesting. And all three of you have been in very cool, interesting bands, but not necessarily ones that you would expect to be that cross-pollinated for me. Yet it all works very, very efficiently, very wonderfully, very naturally, and it's such a hack question, but I am honestly curious. How did the band come together before we get really into it? Nick, you want to start off with that? You're over closest to me. So
Me? Okay. How did we come together? I was talking to Shaun one day about 401ks during coming out of the pandemic. Shaun is a financial planner advisor guy.
Oh, no kidding.
And Shaun and I have known each other for a long time. He and his buddies used to come see Colossumite, like diehard fans. That's one of my old bands. And I've known him through various internet connections here and there. We'd go bike riding together occasionally, and just kind of chums. And as we were talking about the 401k stuff, I said, "Oh yeah, you played drums, right? I'm sorry, I never saw Mise en Place."
Yeah.
And I got a little setup in the basement here, and I'm like, "Wow, you want to get together and play?" And it was December of 21, and I think 21.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep.
Because the year 2000 was like 10 years ago.
Right. The distant future.
And 1990 was 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Everyone
right,
knows that.
exactly. This is
And we got together and banged out some riffs and went, this is pretty fun. And kept doing that, did that a few times. And then out of the freaking blue, Noah texted me. I think he'd probably heard that I was back in town, moved back from New York. And it was kind of like the hand of Jesus, or something.
Right.
Jesus came down,
Right.
told Noah to text me. So, and hey, I got this guy Shaun I'm playing with. You want to get we kind of got in on this practice room that with some other people I knew, and started playing. And it was really fast. I mean, when we played our first show, like 4 months later, something like that. And I knew Noah from when Sick Bay played with his band from high school called Anuretical. And I've known Noah from various message boards, the Modern Radio message board. I knew him from there. I'd see him at shows. We were also, I mean, I've known these guys for coming on 25 years.
Right. But just from being around.
Yeah,
basically.
just around.
Like in
just
music,
around the Twin Cities.
Yeah, sure.
We have a lot of common friends, and here we are. I've known these dudes forever.
Right, because there was a very lived-in feel to the band, even though it's your first record, which comes from people that have played music a lot, but it feels like you guys have a familiarity with each other, which has added to the creativity. So Noah, I know you from Blaha, and
that's true.
Which is great. And Mike, of course, has been on the show before, not in a long time, but I like that band a lot. But you were not playing bass in that band, and I was surprised to see. I was like, "Oh, multi-instrumentalist, great!" so can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I initially, when I was first learning how to play music, bass was like the number one thing for me. But my older brother and dad were drummers, so we always had a kit around the house growing up, and I could play, kind of basic beats here and there when I was a young teenager. And then when I got into my senior year of high school, I was in a band called Anuretical, and that is the aforementioned band that randomly played with Sick Bay at a place called Big V's in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yeah. But believe it or not only do I know Big V's, I think I played there with Shaun once.
You did, indeed.
Oh, yeah.
Legendary.
And yeah, I mean, we were all, I think, 18 at that show, and I had never heard of Sick Bay or anything. I mean, we were pups. We didn't really know a ton about the kind of the local scene, and that's how I sort of just kind of connected with Nick and Greg and Dave at that show, and those guys kind of more or less took us under their wing and showed us a little bit of the ropes of just how to play shows.
How to be
this
a band,
is before,
almost.
Yeah, and this is kind of before the social media aspect of things took off. So can't just Facebook message some booker to play a show. It was hey, you gotta put together a thing and try to get a show together. But yeah, and then the drumming stuff just kind of continued to happen, and with Blaha, it was kind of the same thing. Like Mike knew I was a drummer, and he was looking for somebody for a tour, and then that turned into me just playing on a few albums after that.
So he sort of just invited you in through back channels, basically.
Kind of, sort of, yeah.
That's what happens when you know drums. You got to be careful when you learn drums. That you can be like a back end draft, right?
Yeah,
for that kind of thing, in a good way.
And yeah, exactly. But my connection with Nick a few years ago was honestly because Matamoros, the Sick Bay song, came up on a shuffle of mine while I was working one day, and I texted him, being like, "Are you in Minnesota? I can't remember. What are you up to these days? Doing any music?" And that was that.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that, and I can't remember, Nick, because it's actually been long enough that I don't remember what the hell we said on the last time you were on the show. But there was definitely like a, oh, I thought Nick was in New York. He's back in Minneapolis. Oh, right on. Like people just don't keep up with stuff, myself inclusive, and I'm more tuned in than many. But I mean, it was something where it's like, oh, that's cool, that's awesome. We should play a show with them, and that turned out to be the beginning of COVID, so that didn't happen. But yeah, like the big return, right? Like playing music. You had your band in New York that was going for a while. I feel like this is a very, and I mean this in a positive capacity, but it's a very Minneapolis kind of sounding band. Like there's a lot of Minneapolis history in the band, but like I feel like it honors all the various towers, sure, of Minneapolis style music, and there's something there for all those folks if they care to listen. Is it something where has that ever been something you thought about, or is it something that just it's in it's in the water, it's in the air?
For me personally, I guess I never really knew what Minneapolis sound necessarily is. I mean, I'm curious to hear what your take on it is.
So what I would say, and I did the thing that I hate doing when there's multiple people on, is I didn't direct the question to anyone. So sorry about that. But I feel like there's things in our bright forms that there's for fans of like AmRep stuff, for like fans of like Arc Welder, for like Husker Du, for like Cows. There's like a little bit of all of that while it's sounding like its own thing. And like I'm not saying you guys were trying to like what's it, like exquisite corpse yourself a band or anything along those lines. But I mean there is a rich history of like great sort of iconic Minneapolis bands over the years. And when it comes time to like sit down and like write the songs and do things, like was there any thought to what type of band it was going to be? And Nick specifically, I'm thinking because like we talked a little bit about when you were on about how different Dazzling Killman was to Klossmite and Sick Bay and so on. So even though there was a through line through all of it that sort of like, well, if you dig this, chances are you will probably like this, but will not sound exactly like that. So from a creative perspective, and Shaun, I swear to God, I'm going to get to you eventually. But was there any thought towards what type of band it was going to be?
I think, like you said, Sick Bay was kind of a combination of the screamy, harder stuff and kind of a meeting of tastes between me and Dave Erb, who was kind of a fan of a lot of LA punk, X, Replacements and things like that. So and I was too. I've always been, and I just like that about. And there's this sort of like dual persona factor going on that Husker Du's had, Soul Asylum, many just bands from here happen to have, Replacements for sure. So why not? I mean, people have different moods. It's just what happened, and I don't know. It wasn't that we had intended to do that. I think though these guys were fans of Sick Bay, and I think we just maybe used that as a jumping off point. It's like, right. I don't know, let's kind of go down that route. I don't think that was ever said out loud, but I could sort of feel that. I'd be interested to hear what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, and it beats like putting out an ad in the paper in the classified section, or putting up a flyer at Guitar Center or what have you, right?
Because that always works.
Absolutely, yeah. Pro gear, pro attitude, all that stuff. Shaun, let's bring you in on this. So I know you from My Someplace, which is way back when. And I was, first of all, overjoyed to hear that you were playing again. Were you playing that whole time, and I just was not aware of it? Because I'm unaware of a lot of
Not
things,
at all.
So, okay.
Now, when Nick and I got together at the end of 21, honestly, that summer, I played drums probably for the first time in 10 years.
Dang.
I hadn't played, I'd played guitar around the house and things like that. I was still doing things.
Yeah.
But we moved about a year before that to a bigger house with space. And for the first time, I had a place to play. But yeah, I hadn't
without
played in 10
annoying
years.
everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our houses were way closer together in the old neighborhood.
Yeah,
We had a kid in 2011, right about a year after Music Class kind of took a break, which is still, it's one of those bands that never broke up, but will probably never play again.
right.
But yeah, I hadn't played with people in 10 years. And Nick, like he said, just threw it out one day, and there we were. A couple months later, Noah came and with the bass, and here we are.
Have baseball travel, right?
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, I feel like you guys had a very fully formed sound, even at like one of your earliest shows, which I saw. It just seemed very authoritative, and perhaps that comes just from.
I think it just kind of happened. Like Nick was saying, definitely, I'm happy to have people say we remind them of Husker Du,
There's worse things to be like, look,
Yeah.
there's worse things to be compared to geniuses, right?
I think it was kind of since the record came out and we've seen reviews and things have mentioned some of those bands, and then it kind of dawns on us. And then at that point, like I said, we can't deny it. We grew up on all those bands. Or these guys did probably more than I did because I'm a South Dakotan, I'm a free agent.
Well, when you have sort of hard-hitting rock that has pop hooks and sensibilities, it's going to come up in the conversation.
Yeah.
Right, no matter what. There's no way you're going to get around it. And you can be salty about it or not. And like you have to like learn to kind of find the compliment in that, I guess, to a certain degree. I mean, again, there's worse. Like that's a band that there's many eras of Husker Du. What does this sounding like Husker Du sound like exactly? That could mean a lot of things. And it's there's also the thing that when a band is from a place, they're going to look for bands that are from that area to like point to sometimes too, or at least before we got to this like non-regional specific whatever it is we're in now, where everybody's just from the internet. That was always a thing that like you would look for other bands that these guys must really be into Flipper. Well, they are, but they don't sound anything like Flipper. Oh, but they're from the Bay Area, so it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, like, there's the Dead Kennedys and Avengers and stuff here too. Like, there's plenty of other bands that aren't Flipper, and I do love Flipper. Don't get me wrong, but I think that it's interesting that it kind of felt fully formed as a band, right? Just at the outset, but also I feel like you guys were very patient in allowing yourselves to find your voice and grow, and more often than not. Like there's this idea that the first thing you put out there, like that's what it is for people, and they're gonna make a snap judgment there and then, and they're either into it or they're not, and it's kind of just weird pressure put onto it, and it just kind of seems like you guys had chill is maybe not the right word, but a more just kind of like patient approach to how the band developed, and it kind of seemed like it was all happening very naturally. Like, hey, wrote some songs, maybe we should play a show. Hey, maybe someone else would like to hear these songs. We would like to hear them. Why don't we record them? And maybe I'm making this like a little bit too picturesque in my telling of it, but I think that there's just not a lot of that in these days. I feel like most bands like they feel like they have to come forth fully formed from the head of Zeus every single time, and I think you get a lot of people to kind of make missteps because of that. So, was there any? It didn't seem like there was like urgency is like not the right word, but it didn't seem like there was any rush to get Upright Forms out into the world. But at the same time, it didn't seem like you were dragging your feet either. What was the mindset there?
There was no rush. We're all working people. We have 40-hour-a-week jobs, families, lives. So I was firmly entrenched in this is a hobby, and I'll do it when I can. And then, you know how that goes. Well, what if we did this? Well, what if we did that? And it just starts
Scope
snowballing.
creep is what we call that, right?
It starts up. We start upgrading.
Yeah.
So the little upgrades. Well, what if we record something? Yeah, we should. Yeah. And we've all done this before. We've all been around the block with. We know a lot of it is living here in this town. I mean, this is a freaking nice place to be in a band. I mean, there are so many places to record. There's so many bands. People come out to see you.
It's amazing.
It is.
What must that be like?
It's kind of paradise, and it's really welcoming to do music here. And it's that's kind of in the back of our minds, and it's like, oh, we can do that. Yeah, there's a lot of, you just have to have the will, and it kind of starts rolling. I don't know it, but it was never. I don't have any personally. Don't have any big agenda or I'm already
5-year
blown
plan.
away by what's happened so far. It's been amazing, truly.
Yeah, and I feel like the band's struck a chord with the kind of people that are into the kind of thing that you do. And then, I mean, like, look, isn't that what we're all looking for, right? I mean, it's that's kind of what it's all about. Before we move on, I do want to. We're not just going to do the origin story. Isn't like every Spider-Man movie ever where they retell this origin story. But I want to go through the record, but it's the rare time. I think Upright Forms is a great band name. Finding a great band name in this epoch of time is incredibly difficult. So what was the process with that? Was it like who came up with it? How did you guys agree early on?
I'm going to have to take that one again.
Go on.
I have had that as a band name for a long time.
Okay.
I've always thought that was going to be like a side project of mine. This is years ago. I've always had that in my back pocket. It does appear in a song, a Sick Bay song. Those words appear in the song "Suspicious Icons," and eventually, I think I just threw it in there because I just like how mysterious it conjures up these icons. Like, you're not sure what they are. It's just kind of it seems to have some sort of signal, a purpose. Just a lot of mystery around it, around the connotation of those words. So that's really where that came from. It's been in my head for a long time.
Well, it sounds like something that you should already know about. Like, oh yeah, that I know what that is. And like, wait, what is that?
I was going to add to that story about maybe a month after Nick brought it up, and I thought it was a cool name. We agreed to it. I listened to that Suspicious Icons record for the first time in a long time, and it's right there in the first song. Yeah. And I heard it, and I thought to myself, "Shit! Oh, can we swear?"
Yeah.
Okay. I thought to myself, "Shit!
Yes, you can, but the ship would have sailed."
I figured Nick had forgotten.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't said it, and I thought I'm not going to say anything just in case. Because if I was in his position, he might think I don't want to bring something from the old band. And I thought it was great, and I thought it was a cool throwback to a band that we all loved.
Yeah.
So but about a little while after that, he brought it up, and I knew about it a couple weeks ago, but I didn't tell you.
Well, it's funny because when it's something that's one of the members' old bands, there's two ways it can go. It can kind of just like seem like an homage if people are paying attention at all, which good luck. People barely pay attention to anything these days, am I right? But it can be an homage to that, or it could be something where it's meant as a direct continuation. And this definitely seems like its own identity, its own scene, its own built world, if you will. And what I've always felt bad for is when bands name themselves after other band songs, where it's like, okay, well, congratulations, you're going to be compared to that band for forever and ever, amen. I hope you like hearing about them. But, not for me. It looks good on you. But I think that I think it's a great band name. And I think it's really hard to come up with a great band name in 2024. Look, it wasn't easy in 1994, but it's really hard in 2024. I mean, it's every band name ever has been taken. So I think you guys got a good one. And it does sound kind of mysterious and like something that you already know or should know. And I think that's interesting. So before we move on to talking about the record, Noah, just real quick, coming at things from adding what you add to it and playing bass in this, what kind of melodic sensibilities are you bringing into this? Like, are you, because I think you've got a unique style. Again, having never seen you play that instrument before, first time I saw you, I was actually deeply confused because I was like, wait, Shaun and Noah are both in this band? And the first thing I thought of is it double drums? I was like, that'd be interesting. I'm like, oh no, he's playing bass. Okay, right on. But bringing in your thought process, your creativity, your stuff to this, even though it's not like they were around for like years and years before you started playing, But what was your thought process behind that? Because I know you from Blaha, obviously more like kind of like dark garage, like evil surf music kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And again, once again, just I want to acknowledge people can play other genres of music, and that's okay. But I think that it was cool to see how you all fit together because it fit in very naturally. But I'm curious as to what stuff you brought to it when you first came in.
So if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the first band Nick has had bass in since Dazzling Killman, right? Because Colossus might just have bass. And,
That is correct.
That's right. Yeah.
So at first, I kind of wanted to just let those guys sort of guide the first few songs that we did, and then eventually I would kind of throw in like a lick here and there. But some of my favorite bass players are like kind of that alternative tentacle sound, like No Means No and Dead Kennedys.
Yes.
I love the tone of that. I'm not a super shredder, but I always just really admired how melodic those bass lines were. And with our music kind of having like a little hint of that alternative tentacle influence, maybe I figure I'd throw some of that stuff in there.
Right, it isn't just like hitting the root note of whatever the guitar's playing, you know.
Yeah. And
now, if there's anything wrong with that, look, Running with the Devil's great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, no, I love simple bass a lot, but I think at the end of the day, if there's a moment in time of the song where maybe just like a little lick, it could sound good, give it a shot at practice, and if it sounds cool, go with it. If not, don't try to force it.
Absolutely. Well, don't try to force the good ethos in general. So,
yeah.
Listen, let's get to the meat of the matter here, right? You guys got this new record. I want to hear about it. The audience wants to hear about it. Let's talk about it. So this is we're gonna go through all the songs on Blurred Wires. Everyone's gonna get a chance to speak. Nobody's hopefully gonna be talking over each other. This is the thing that I've done before. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through song by song. The idea is tell a little bit about it, whether it's where the song title came from, your individual parts that are being played, some idea about the recording, playing it live, and some crazy thing happened. Whatever springs to mind, there's no wrong answer of any kind. So we're going to go through, and everyone gets a turn to speak. Nick, you're going to start off this one. Heaven Knows is the first song. Can you tell me about that one?
I'll tell you what I know about that song.
All right.
It started off as a pretty simple riff, and I had in mind kind of a garagey tune, maybe akin to say like a Wire song or just something like, let's just do a 2-minute kind of harsh sounding simple song. And then, as we tend to do, what if we threw a little of that in the soup, and then pretty soon we'll Frankenstein another piece on there. And it's got that kind of stepping stone. It doesn't go, it ends in a completely different part. It has an ending. It doesn't really go verse, chorus, verse, back and forth. Kind of does, but I generally like that form. Although we do have, I kind of like, it's a good example of like a little bit of a back and forth, like a bridge and then an ending. It's a bit of a formula. The lyrics, poetry. I don't know. I call poetry on that. I don't really have any specific topic I'm talking about. So I can't really. It's whatever you want it to be. I mean, choose your own adventure lyrics. Some of the lyrics are not choose your own adventure, but that one is. And again, I'm sort of at the end. I'm talking about sound, kind of like listening to sound in the Sick Bay song. I noticed that like that's a little bit of an Easter egg or something of my own. The name of the band. It's like, geez sakes, why don't you just throw some more Sick Bay crap in here?
Well, if there's a movie, you'd call it an Easter egg, right? So
yeah,
there you go.
Pretty much.
you can go look up to find out all the Easter eggs for the new Upright Forms record.
I don't know. And I really like that kind of anthemic punk sound in a lot of bands. And talk about to me, influences local bands. Dillinger 4 is a huge.
Oh, sure.
I love that band.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a huge favorite of mine. There's those albums kick so much butt, and I feel like that I'm channeling a little bit of that.
I can hear it. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Fist in the air kind of stuff. So with that, I shall pass. I'll pass the mic.
Shaun, heaven knows.
One thing I love about it is it was the last song we wrote for the record. And leading up to the recording and sequencing, probably for 6 months or so, it was the last song that we played every time we played it live. And it felt like an excellent closer to me. Loved it there. And then when we were sequencing the record, one of these two guys, I think kind of the two of them sent a, what about this? And suddenly the last song was the first song. And I thought it was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard until I listened to it 2 or 3 times and realized it's a brilliant opener. And it has that, as Nick said, the sound bit at the end is that Nick Sakes hook that we all know and love. And it's just a great anthem, to open it, I think. And another funny bit is the original the working title, the song number 2 type title was Blurred Wires. Because of the Wire influence and a bit of a Blur influence, which Noah can speak to. That's what we called it for a long time, and then when the lyrics came, we changed it, and that became the record title.
That's awesome. I adopted this as my own because I can't remember who originally said it, but that a good closing song can also make a great opening song as well, and like the best of them are like sometimes even almost interchangeable. But I've noticed that before, that like album has like a banger opener and okay, that's the closer for the set, or vice versa. It's not a 1-for-1 thing at all. Don't get me wrong, but like I can hear that as well. Noah, how about Heaven Knows? Tell me about Blur.
Yeah, so specifically, we had loosely talked about at one point in time covering a song called Bugman by Blur. Okay. It's the second track off their album 13, and the chorus of Heaven Knows is slightly similar in key, and just like the kind of cool weird chord that Nick plays during that section, I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like Blur a little bit. But then the verses really kind of remind me more of Wire. So it was like what Shaun said, it was kind of scribbled on our whiteboard as Blur Wire, Wire Blurs, and then kind of just through workshopping some names, that ended up being the album title, and Nick came up with Heaven Knows. But yeah, I think the song overall kind of has a nice range of like the music that we're into. It's kind of got like almost a Who sound to it as well. Another band I know that Nick and I really like a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
So
definitely huge.
And Dillinger 4 too. That was like one of the first 7th Street entry shows I saw here in Minneapolis when I was 15 years old, and I mean I'll be 40 next year, so it's kind of wild to think about all that stuff. But that's sort of my take with Heaven Knows. I know that we used to end the song earlier, and then Nick came to practice one day with that outro. I was like, okay, this maybe should be our closer. And then like what Shaun said, when we heard the sequencing of it being the first track, I said to myself, yeah, I'm cool with that. That really
just
does make sense.
It works, right? There's nothing. There's don't get in the way of it, as they say.
Yeah, totally.
And I wanted to say something. Sorry to hog something came to my mind that it was interesting about. I don't know, as a person in bands, Conan, when you come up with a new song, this is a question for you, Conan. Do you, before you name the song, has a name, when you communicate, like, oh, let's do that song that sounds like the Who or Wire? Do you use like, you write it down as like the Ramones song or the song? Do you use like kind of the obvious connection as just a penciled in name for the song before there's actually a name there? Because that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, having which worked out wonderfully in this case. So for Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, the title comes first, but that's wildly atypical. Every other band I've ever had, it's been like AC/DC Devo or something along those lines, where it's
I wondered.
Gang of Four, Thin Lizzy, where it's just like these are the things that I'm reminded of, or whoever's reminded of, and that, like in some cases it's which one was that? Was I doing?
Yeah, you got to communicate.
You
can't just say. I do not know the notes on the neck of the guitar or what the hell I'm playing. I can't.
Yeah,
say
we talked about that.
The
last time you were
ADG
on,
song, like what? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this one.
So anyway,
as you may know, our songs are in different time signatures. This one was it. I tell you, I saw a band that like did that. I'm like, please stop doing that. Please don't.
Yeah, I was in one of those bands.
That's something that Noah and I dork out about a little bit, but not a ton.
But back announcing it on stage is a whole different level of.
Definitely not going to happen.
Like, maybe not doing that, friend. No, but that's you can come up with some great portmanteaus that way, right? So sometimes it can stick. So let's move on to My Lower Self. Shaun, you're going to start this one off. Tell me about My Lower Self.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember how that. It started with. I know it started with a Nick riff, and I thought it was funny when Noah mentioned the Who on Heaven Knows, because the chorus to Lower Self always feels like the Who to me. And I think Nick even said one time, just go crazy like Keith Moon. I think his direction for drums involved his arms going like this.
Right.
But I love the difference between the verse is huge caveman drums, and the chorus is another one of those kind of sing-along choruses, and it's a little bit all over the place. But then back to I think it's probably our heaviest song, and
I'd say so. Sure,
love that one. One of the later ones too. I think it was probably that and Heaven Knows were like two new ones together, kind of towards the end of working on the record.
Yeah. No, that's good. Noah, how about My Lower Self?
I feel like this was a song that Shaun and Nick had done together, not necessarily before I joined, but I think there was a practice I wasn't able to attend, and I got like a, what do you call it, voice memo recording of it. And honestly, I was just like, less is more with this. Just let this be the kind of Black Flag heavy jam in the beginning. And then I do remember Nick also kind of talking about the Who with the chorus, and that was kind of my writing motive. There's a little bass ditty in the chorus, and that's probably the busiest I'll ever really get. But that's that's one of my favorites to play too. Nice, less than 2 minute long song.
Yeah. You can get a little whistle in there. It's okay. Nobody's going to be mad.
Yeah. And we had fun with the recording. I have this pedal that a friend of mine at Tommy works at Zvex, a pedal company here in Minnesota, and he made me this bass distortion pedal, and it just has a volume switch on it and an on and off switch. And when you turn it on, and if you're not playing, it just squeals super loud. Kind of,
sure,
yeah. I mean, it's hard to play live because it's hard to keep it under control. But I really wanted that like TV party Black Flag kind of squeal somewhere in that song. Yeah.
Police
so we had fun doing that in the studio for sure.
I went too. That's good. Nick, how about you, My Lower Self?
Yeah, that bass squeal reminds me of Police Story.
Yeah, that's the other one. Yeah.
And that's my love of Brutal. Which the theme to that song, it's got a specific theme. It's not poetic. We're always breaking down. Our bodies are always getting worse and betraying us. And I've had a lot of body problems the past few years. And and that was just sort of a venting of bodily frustrations, and then death. Or you just, I don't know, in the next realm. I mean, it's very, is there any more dramatic a subject for a song than death? I don't know, bodily decay. Decay and death, like, ooh, that's intense, man.
Exactly.
But yeah, it always reminded me of some of my favorite Poison Idea songs, like off of Feel the Darkness, which I'm a huge fan of. I love Poison Idea, and yeah, it's just a 1-2 punch of a song, and I love what these guys added to it. I mean, that's a total group effort. I mean, I had those two riffs, but I love one of the things that I walk away from when I hear our album is that do 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 do, like Noah's friggin' melodic little fills on his bass are so catchy. They will stick in my head for days. And that's one of them, definitely. So
without it sounding like them, it brings to mind like the Descendants. You know what I mean?
Oh,
where it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
some of those
definitely.
bass lines on those songs is just like it's like that's the hook of you're like, oh man.
I love bands that kind of have lead bass, that hold down the fort with the melody, like the Jam or Stranglers. Jinx, buy me a Coke.
I was just gonna interject and say that Milo Goes to College by the Descendants was a huge influence for me when I was learning how to play bass.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
I saw those guys in a tiny basement in 1984.
It's amazing.
Of course you did. Old timer.
And
I wasn't even alive yet, Nick.
Yeah, right, exactly. When I had
1 year later.
When I had Stefan Edgerton on too, like I more or less, I thought very tactfully brought up the fact that the Descendants still beloved by multiple generations of people. People discover those records every year, et cetera, et cetera. Meanwhile, all can't get arrested. Like it's just like for whatever reason, and he's very sanguine about it. He's happy with what he's got, and like again, he's one of those guys. Once you hear him play guitar, you're like, I know who that is. It's good for him. He found his thing. Cool. So let's do Drive at Night. Noah, this is going to be you kicking this one off.
Yeah, so title-wise, it was actually something Nick said in passing at practice. He had mentioned how, I don't even remember what part it was to the song, but like, yeah, it kind of sounds like something you'd listen to when you're driving at night, and I think that would be good to have that be in the title somewhere. And initially, this song wasn't even like the kind of thing where I'm going to be singing on this one for sure. It just kind of ended up that way. I had a melody in my head, and it is sort of our Frankenstein song for sure, because the intro of that song is something I've had in my back pocket for many, many years.
Oh.
But the ending of that song, where it's kind of more pop pretty, was something we all kind of came up with a couple of years ago. So, there's that little pause where I kind of view the song as like two different parts, and that is how that song kind of came to be. It was definitely workshopped a lot, and I think the ultimately the final product of it is our best version of it.
That's interesting to say that too, because it is almost like first and second movement or something kind of feel to it. Like it definitely feels like there's different vibes almost.
Yeah, lyrically it is in the same theme, even if like the second portion of the song is prettier. But it was kind of a way to describe someone that I knew with a personality disorder. So it's kind of fitting that the first half of the song is frantic and chaotic, and then the second half is kind of laid back and mellow.
Right.
Just turned out to work like that, I guess.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Nick, Drive at Night.
That's almost all Noah. I apparently said something about it would be sounds like something you hear when you drive at night, and he took that and ran with it. I honestly don't. I didn't have much to do with this one. I don't sing on it. Only thing, my little creative addition was doing some sort of tire screechy guitar stuff at the end with reverb pedal and a delay pedal. But I was happy to let Noah drive on this one.
Hey, everybody. There it is.
And yeah, that's all I have on that one. I was a little, here I go, goes along for the ride. God,
There you go. Keep going. Keep it going. Keep it going. What else can we do? You got a commute one in you? You can do that. You can do
please, Shaun, take it away.
a sobriety checkpoint. I mean, whatever works for you.
I
John,
was just going to comment on the driving rhythms and how much I enjoy those.
Yeah.
Noah said about workshopping. I don't remember. You guys, Noah will remember this more. But Drive at Night and Long Shadow. One half of one of those songs became the intro for the other song, and both of those for a long time were kind of the longer songs. I don't know, a little more variety, so to speak, I guess, than the 3-minute or 2-minute punk bangers. Yeah. And wouldn't say we were struggling with them, but he threw out one day, how about we take this middle part from this song, make it the intro of that one, listen to this, and sent us the phone recorded demo, and then it made sense. And both those songs, I think it was Long Shadow that lost 30 or 40 seconds, which suddenly made it tighten up, and then Drive at Night felt like it made sense when we played it that way. So it was kind of those two together. Yeah, it was interesting.
There's a lot of cool drum stuff in here too. There's some good.
It's a fun one to play. Yeah, and some of the, I think that might be one too. That Noah being a drummer is different for me. To play in a band with a drummer, right. A really good drummer, and he has good ideas, and I'm always open to them because if he writes a riff and hears drums in his head, I want to hear what he was thinking. But occasionally, some stuff I'm playing on those starts with an idea. He says feels like this. And then I do whatever I do with it. And we've come up with some pretty cool things like that. And this is one of those.
Yeah, I feel like these guys are being modest here. And I just want to say that their input on this song, I mean, that was them too. I mean, yeah, I had an idea in my head for a couple of things, but no, these guys definitely were major contributors to the song.
Yeah, it's got a good, it's got that staccato-ness and like the gang vocals and stuff. Like it definitely feels like a team effort for everyone. It doesn't feel like Sloan or something. I love Sloan, but yes, Nick.
Sloan's cool. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah, you're actually up next. So yes, you
thank the Lord for the voice memo app on the iPhone.
That's
I don't know if you can see it, but all these are riffs, all of them. I'm sure. I'm sure that Drive at Night is in there somewhere. Drive at Night with a date next to it as a sort of evolution. It's insane how many riffs are on here.
I call that the Digital Riff Museum.
I think every band does that. They must. Right. I mean,
I do. Yeah,
I've heard that on the other songwriting podcasts, and he'll interview bands. And it's like, yep, we all do it. it's damn voice memo, man.
These things are cool. These things are not. These things can be used for stuff other than spying on you.
Oh yeah, I mean, send somebody a riff, and then you we've put together most of these songs via remote. I mean, I have to say, it's something that
do you do the
definitely
thing where it's like,
new.
Do you like mouth sounds it out like like
Yes, I have. I definitely done that. Yep.
I always kind of wanted to start a song that way, just like with the original, like whatever was into the voice note, and then
like the Bad Brains song where he goes,
and I always forget about that. And
I gotta record that idea on voice memo.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Okay.
Metacontextual.
I'll stop talking.
Well, you won't because you're up next. This is They Kept on Living, which was brand new when you and I talked. Not when we talked last. When we talked last on the show. That's how long ago that was, right? So, so tell me about They Kept on Living. I know we talked about it a little bit at the time. This is on the record now. So
okay, that song was one of those riffs I played with Shaun at the very, very beginning. I think, unless I'm not, my memory ain't so hot. But I think that was one of the very first, like the chorus of that song. And that one was called Cars Song because it had a just what I needed kind of sound.
Sure.
And like, what does it sound like? It kind of sounds like the Cars. So for a long time, that was Cars riff.
Yeah.
And again, that the heavy, slow part was just another thing I had on the old voice memo, and it seemed like a good break to put in there. And I don't know, something channeled through me, and it seemed like a big was needing sort of a big crowd chant, chorus, sing along. They kept on living, defiant. I don't know. I think I might have had it written down in a notebook somewhere. But then the funny thing about that song is so many people automatically, well, not like we have tons of people commenting and listening to us, but many people assumed it was about zombies because it came out on the Halloween.
Right.
And I'm like, really? I'd never occurred to me. Like, oh yeah, it's about like the living dead, or like came back to life, like kept on living. Like, okay, but you go for it if you want to. That works. I had more of a keep on trucking kind of perseverance vibe in my head. But yeah, and that song has the kick-ass organ overdub.
That is a great organ.
That is a great one.
Yeah,
and that's so much fun to play that song. I just love it. Me and Noah both do vocals on the chorus, which is a brand new thing for me. I've never been in a band where I have had another person sing at all, much less with me. Bass and another vocalist. There's a lot of firsts for me in this band. It took some getting used to. It's kind of like, what? It's a little took some just startling, and I've gotten to love it. But at first I'm like, what? This is strange and new. But yeah, that's about all I got on that one.
Fair enough.
Take it away, guys.
Shaun,
I've got even more facts about how it came together that I think is fun because we just got done talking about humming voice memos. The verse riff Nick had on his phone from a long time ago, and it was just he and I before Noah had come along. And I remember him saying, I don't know, I got some of these riffs. What about this one? And he played it. Yeah, that's cool. So we started messing with it. And that chorus riff, he texted me from a bike ride and said, I was thinking about this for the chorus riff. And it was literally him humming those chords.
Yeah.
And then we tried it. And yeah, we thought it reminded us of just what I needed. And then the zombie thing too, we recorded it. Mark asked for a song for that Halloween comp. And we kind of went, well, I mean, it's basically about zombies. It just worked out. And then it became this joke because everyone thought it was about zombies.
Well, it's on a comp called Sounds to Make You Shudder, right?
Yeah,
so
that came out on Halloween. Twice.
Totally unintentionally, though.
Yeah. Right. Hey, look, there's people love zombies. There's a whole market for it, right? Like all these movies, all the Hot Topic.
Never heard of that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We need to get it into somebody's zombie movie.
I was gonna say, like, I couldn't even tell you if The Walking Dead is still in the air, but I'm sure there's like 15 spinoffs, and one of them would probably pick up the song, right?
And if that chorus is not a football chant somewhere in Europe, we're just gonna quit the band. We're all gonna stop playing this band because that's the ultimate goal.
Big football.
Yeah, we wrote it. Yeah, we only wrote this song for arena rock purposes, for sure.
Understood. I get it. I respect the hustle. Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a little to blame for the Halloween misinterpretation, the zombie interpretation of the song, because going into the studio when we first recorded this song, so they are different versions from what's on the Songs That Make You Shudder comp versus what's on Blurred Wire. We were in Tony's studio when we were first recording that, and he had a plethora of keyboards and organs and farfisas, and I just kind of started playing around with the chorus while we were setting up for the day.
Sure, yeah.
And I kind of one of those things like, oh, wouldn't that be kind of cool to like add that on the song? Kind of sounds like Elvis Costello's Radio a little bit.
Sure.
And
Steve Neiman.
Those guys were just like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, here we go. And it just, I feel like adding that organ in really made it more zombie kind of Halloween themed, unintentional, but it turned out cool.
No, definitely, and there's definitely a rich tradition of the garage rock, and then also like the '60s garage rock, Universal Monsters sort of vibe, like that whole that whole thing. Not a bad way at all. It's just sort of like it's hard not to think of those kinds of things when you get, especially that specific kind of organ, which also just sounds cool in general. But
it was such a small era, but I love the 7-inch that the Misfits did of She Cough Cool. Whereas before they had a guitar, it's Danzig playing that keyboard. I love that era of the Misfits, and definitely was kind of thinking that when I played around with it.
Cooper does not like that.
He's more of a Samhain guy. No, but I think that and it's funny you mention that because I came pretty late to the Misfits. I mean, late, like whatever, like 19 or something, right? Like I was like, whatever, I get it. You like that band. But like when my friend got the box set, and it's funny you mentioned Cough Cool because I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like is this the Misfits? Oh, okay, cool. This is cool. And then like it actually made me listen maybe without the blinders on to them. And I was like, hey, this is just like, revved up 50s, 60s doo-wop music with like loud guitars that are sometimes even in tune.
Oh, totally.
Thank you.
When my parents they came in the room and I was listening to the Misfits, they're like, oh, are you listening to the Doors or is this Elvis? That's what they thought Danzig's voice sounded like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, like it's again, there's worse things in life, right? And then now everyone's like, oh, it sounds like Danzig. It's like, does it though? Really? But okay.
Yeah, right.
Shaun, you're up. Long Shadow.
Also kind of what I was saying before. I remember this one taking a little bit more time, and also between this and Drive at Night feeling like kind of a left turn from what we had, that far. We had 4 or 5 songs probably before these two, and that's when I started to really get excited, I think, about, I mean, I was loving it all along, but really getting excited about what we could potentially do. Noah and I feel like this song too, there's just something about us playing together on that song where I started really feeling locked in with him, as a rhythm section. There's bits of that just, that's when I started to really feel like we were connecting. Maybe it was one of the first ones that really felt like it came together as a group too. I don't know. Important to me though, because it felt like I was really locking in with Noah at that point.
No, yeah, absolutely. You guys sound like a very unified force, so to speak, which is good. It's a good thing for a rhythm section to be, if you ask me.
Yeah,
I'm brave enough to say it. Thank you. Noah, you're up next. Long Shadow.
Yeah, so for me, this is one of those songs where I feel like there should be like an MTV or what was it, VH1's like pop-up video where it has like a bunch of facts scrolling across the screen. That's how I feel.
I had that on everything, by the way. I'm all for that. Like it's like it would beat like pausing the movie or whatever to go look at Wikipedia to like find out information. Like I'm all for it. There was a little side note. There was a great show that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, speaking of zombie movies, they had a show called Spaced. Oh, I know it well, my dude. It's there's a Replicator song called Spaced in honor of that show, so I know it well, that guy.
There's the bonus DVD feature where it kind of has like that pop up, like this line is a pop culture reference to XYZ movie or whatever.
Right.
And that's kind of how, for this song, for me, it's like, I think the intro is like guided by voices, where Nick is doing a little bit of everything. I think that part's guided by voices. I think there's a bit of like Archers of Loaf in the pre-chorus and chorus, and Super Drag in the chorus was definitely something that I kind of had in mind. And again, this was another one of those Frankenstein ones that came together. Actually, the intro to Drive at Night was the intro to this song, and it just was kind of going to be this explosive thing into the little bit of everything. But after a while, it was like a square peg, round hole sort of deal. And just said, let's start out with Shaun doing the drum roll. And we cut it down to what I think is probably the best version of that song. I mean, we had probably 10 different versions at one point.
That's awesome. Nick, Long Shadow, what's your thoughts?
I got a few. That my vocals on the first half of this song, I thought up on a bike ride. I started just on its own. The lines, little bit of everything, stuck here and nothing, in that melody. And while I was riding, I recorded it. Good old voice memo.
What strikes again? Yeah.
And Noah came to practice with that riff, and I think I got vocals that were really good, and it did channel the Guided by Voices, which really, when you think about Guided by Voices, to me, I think might as well go to The Who again.
Right, exactly.
The Who and Guided by Voices are definitely intertwined. And The Who is in my DNA. I mean, the Who, Tommy especially, I listened to with my dad when I was like, when the damn album came out. I've been around for a while. So that was also, it's weird realizing, talking about these songs, how much the Who pops up. That's really cool. But the second half is it's Noah and I just split it. He does the vocals on the end, and we don't go back to the beginning. So it is kind of just a progression. And I do a little callback on the second half, but it's a little odd in that, like, there's just definitely part A and part B, like vocal wise. And I love playing that song. I love the first Shaun's drum roll into it. And that's about, those are just wanted to talk about how that occasionally I will think of a melody. And that one is actually just the melody and the words popped into my head, which is kind of a first. That's gold. That's gold, Conan, gold.
I know. Were you on a bike ride for that too?
Yeah. I do a lot of bike riding.
I was gonna say, apparently a very fertile creative time for you. Yeah.
Everyone needs to ride a bike. If you're gonna play music, you better be riding a bike. That's what I always say.
If you're gonna take away one lesson, that's the one.
If you listen to this long ass interview, ride a bike. That's all I gotta say.
There you go. This podcast is brought to you by Big Bike. Exactly.
Big Bike Inc.
Big Bike. Chopped Even. This is Noah. This is gonna be you starting this one off.
Oh, this was one of the first things these guys sent me. They had I don't know if it was Shaun's Basement or Rehearsal Space demo of this song. And I remember thinking like, oh, wow, this is so fast and there's a lot of notes. And this is going to be awesome once I actually have an hour or two to sit down and figure out what's going on here.
Right.
And now it's one of my favorite ones to play live. And at first it was like, I got to think about everything I do in this song. And then it turned into like, it turns into like, I can do this in my sleep, back my hand kind of thing. And this was probably my favorite thing that the guys had, because they had sent me a few songs. And I think there was even some ideas that haven't even seen the light of day, but that was the song that I'd like to join. So that's my little commentary with Chopped Even.
It's a calling card. It's a calling card for you. Exactly. Nick.
Oh, this is classic me riff. I do these. This is kind of my wheelhouse is doing these sort of off kilter hardcore channeling again, like bands like Poison Idea, Black Flag, some Husker Du, the harder stuff off Zen Arcade. That's what I thought of when I think people in bands, I'm channeling something, it just doesn't come from nowhere. If it's not the Who, that's apparently Poison Idea. From what this interview is telling me, and Wire and Blur, but
worst comparative analysis to be made.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
and it's just a slammer. It's a slammer with twists and turns, and at one point I realized this might have the most chord changes of any of our songs. I don't know. It's got a lot of fast chord changes, but somehow it's easy to play, which is kind of a cool sign. Tons of chord changes, abrupt starts and stops, screamy vocals, cathartic, and super fun to play. And I don't have to think too much when I play it, which is surprising.
Short one too, doesn't even clear 2 minutes.
Short one.
Nothing wrong with that.
Get in the pit, get her done.
Get in the pit and love somebody. Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Ding dong.
Exactly. A Nemo. How do you say it? A Nemo.
Shaun didn't comment on Chopped Even.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry, Shaun.
No problem. I do have a couple things that are fun for me on this. I had mentioned earlier playing in a band with Noah, who's a drummer. Nick is very responsible for the drums and the way that song went. I don't remember exactly what I was playing when we were first working on the riffs, but it was not nearly as chaotic. And I remember Nick describing, and little known fact, inside baseball, Nick started as a drummer. And wouldn't probably say that he's good at it, but he is good at describing a feel or what and I remember him kind of helping me kick it up a notch to get it where it is now. And it's one of those songs when you play it live where you need to play it about 10 BPM faster than it should be. So it's, if you lock it in, it's not as fun as if it's just about to fall off the rails the entire time. When we play it like that,
edge.
And it feels like one of us is just going to quit because it's going so crazy. That makes it, and then that's always the best performance of it. It's a blast to play, but I'm always very nervous because I'm pretty exposed in parts, and I think, oh man, this is just about to go to hell, but it never does.
Right, it's like a top or something. It's like, is he gonna fly off the table? We'll
see.
Exactly. My deep anxiety for trying to pronounce this word. Sorry. Anemocetine? Is that a chemical? Is that like an allergy medication or something?
No.
What is
So it is a misinterpreted. Either maybe I wrote a typo or something, but it's supposed to be anamoxetine, which is a medication.
Okay.
So an X instead of the S. But I think maybe you guys heard it differently, or maybe I had it as a typo. But I had the bass line of the song was just a voice memo, and I sent it to them as either that typo or maybe it was correct. But yeah, it really just was one of those things that whenever I do a voice memo demo, I just kind of take a look around the room and just see what words.
what words are around you, what things can be named.
Yeah. I mean, Nick can attest to this. Some of the demos I send are like, what the hell is like? I sent one the other day called tuna ditch sandwich, and it's like, I was just thinking about tuna sandwiches and ditch. I don't know. One new song of ours is called Novocaine Thirst. That was based off of like me going to the dentist and wanting more Novocaine for a tooth removal.
Yeah, that sounds like a Captain Beefheart song. It's great, It's awesome.
Yeah, right. But that's essentially what animositine is. And one of those things that, like I said, I had the bass line for it as a demo and sent it to these guys. And what I kind of had in mind vibe-wise was, and this is maybe something new that we haven't referenced, but Yola Tango. I was like, it'd be cool to kind of have a mellow, laid-back song where it's like heavily in the key of G, and baseline-wise influence. Not something like an everyday thing for me, but Lifter Puller Ted.
Ah.
He's very melodic basses. There's an
Yeah.
album of Lifter Pullers called Fiesta and Fiascos that has great bass tone and great bass lines. And I'm not even really that well versed on the Hold Steady or even that much Lifter Puller, but that album is like, God, Tad, the bassist, writes really great melodies. And I had listened to Lifter Puller maybe a couple weeks before, and that's kind of where the influence came from.
Nice. Well, and like with the title again, whether it's an autocorrect original or or something that was misheard, malapropism, whatever, it does sound like animosity in aerosol form or something, which is also kind of funny
perfect
and cool too. It's like, oh, it's in a liquid. You can it's in a spray bottle.
Yeah, there you go.
Nick, you're next up here. You were just going to kick this off, so
yeah. This song, Animositine. This song immediately made me think of television personalities and just sort of a lo-fi British. Again, sort of. It's personal. I'm not gonna. Song has a connection. It's got an addiction connection. It's got a death connection. I think it's fairly obvious to me. I don't know. Animositine's an interesting word. The title came before the lyrics, but we kept the title. And that I was thinking, should we change the title? Like, no, animositine. It sounds like a drug tied with animosity, which ties in with addiction and alcoholism.
Yeah,
and also a little bit of personal stuff in there about my past. I'd rather not go into past difficulties I've had with some people. And this one really gets me emotional. It's it's kind of amazing. Like this song, I can, I don't know what it is. At the end, it's funny that the kind of the end chorus, outro chorus, which is a little bit of a, like on Heaven Knows. I still, we didn't do it, but I had that part where I say, "Ooh, change your mind." I pictured a chorus of women.
Oh hell
backup
yeah,
singers.
totally, yeah. Like,
and I was like, God, I really want to do that, but it's so cheesy, it's so goofy, so we never did. But I'm glad it went the way it did. But yeah, this song, I feel like I ventured into new territory that I'd never been before musically, and it was really cool. So yeah, this song's a biggie for me, and I love it a lot.
Ask your doctor if animositine is right for you.
It's probably not. Your doctor's gonna, it's $1,400 a month to get on it for one.
Right,
Insurance
exactly.
won't pay for it.
Right.
But it works great.
Yeah,
works
no,
great. Just
that's
like
what you think
all
it's
the
gonna
drugs
do.
in our regular lives. Like, yep, if you don't have the right insurance, it's $2,000 a day, or something.
Best healthcare system in the world, right?
Yeah, kick ass.
Shaun, how about this one?
I love the fact that it sits right behind Chopped Even, because I think those are the two complete opposites of what we do. And I lied before when I said Heaven Knows was the last song. This was actually the last song, and we hadn't yet played it live when we recorded it. And to me, it kind of, at least personally, felt like I can't wait to see where we go next. It almost felt like it was, closing the book on that record. Then we went and recorded it. And it was different, even with Long Shadow and Drive at Night, it was different than those. And like Noah said, Yola Tango, television personalities, Guided by Voices, obviously. It just felt like we're going to really be able to continue to do really cool things. It felt way out of left field from what we had been doing. And it's just such a great song. I love it. What these guys have done on it. I'm just there to keep time on this one. I think what these guys did on that one is amazing.
I feel like I just want to say in lieu of not having the choir behind us, I definitely added a gratuitous amount of mellotron in this song.
Right, sure. Which is
I
great.
was like, this section right here where it's just kind of instrumental. I'm like, Noel, can I use your keyboard quick? And you have a Mellotron sound I can try? And that was pretty much that.
Because it'll make any human being weep when they hear a Mellotron.
Exactly. It's hard to get mad at Mellotron. It's very hard.
You got to take a lot of animosity
You would have to be
get
you'd
mad
be all
at
hopped up on
Mellotron.
animosity.
You got to
to
be
mad at
completely
Mellotron.
high on animosity.
Exactly.
I still have the original bottle of the anamoxetine that was prescribed me. For what it's worth, it was like I had some concerns that maybe I had some like attention issues, and so my doctor was like, "Try this out. It's not as strong as Ritalin or whatever." And I gave it a shot. Didn't really do anything, and I'll just hang on to that as an artifact for upright
memento.
forms.
Exactly. You can auction it off for charity in like 10 years or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. The pills will still be in there.
It's like with the warning not to take the pills.
I would assume they have an expiration date, right?
Yeah, one would imagine. Oh, probably. Shaun, hit us with the regular multiplier.
I think this was the first couple of songs that Nick and I had were not really songs until Noah came on board. I don't want to make it seem like we had written, they weren't completed until Noah came in. But I think this might have been one of the first ones that started and ended with all three of us. And just kind of a straightforward rock banger, It's a fun one to play. It's an easy one to play. It's catchy. A lot of everything that we like to do. I like the end bit. Always sounded to me like late period Sonic Youth. With those octave chords.
Yeah.
And I think it feels to me at least like it was one of the ones that was kind of like that started and finished with all three of us kind of all in a room together,
I mean, there's a little progginess to it. It isn't like complete like it's like the Ramones necessarily or something,
I suppose there is some of that. We kind of forget that there's a lot of, we were talking about odd times earlier. There's a lot of odd time signatures in there that we don't realize because Noah and I are kind of theory dorks a little bit, and Nick writes riffs completely from his gut, and feel nowhere, not thinking about times and things like that. And a lot of times his body just doesn't jive in 4/4, which is awesome. That's one of the reasons I've always been a huge fan of his music. How this all came together is those riffs. And I remember when he and I started playing together, and he would come up with these riffs that were so foreign to me. And as a drummer, I can't not try to count them out and figure out where the one is.
Yeah.
And then, his brain is
helpful.
just,
yeah.
Who cares where the one is? This is how the riff goes.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. I mean, that's the way so many of these songs are so unique to me. I think we all come kind of from different places on them.
It's saying get that cool polyrhythmic stuff going, even if it is secret prog. Nobody intended to do it that way, but it's secret.
I think I'm the only real prog fan, but I definitely grew up in a lot of prog rock.
It's a prog safe space, my friend. You're good.
All right, perfect.
Noah, regular multiplier.
Yeah, like Shaun said, I think this was the first one we kind of all completed, like sort of together. This was one of my favorite lines that Nick had in the chorus. The no. Oh, God, that's really, really catchy and cool.
Yeah.
Coming up with a bass line for that sort of gelled with it, and it wasn't just playing what Nick was doing. It took me a couple like at home, some homework sessions, but I love playing this song. And the one little tidbit I have on the recording is at the end of the song, there's a very detuned open C. Mm-hmm. I had the idea come from the song Rain by the Beatles. The end of that song.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. The end of that song, out of nowhere, I don't know if it's like a baritone guitar.
I think it's a bass six. Oh, actually, I think it's a bass six. Yeah.
If you know, please tell me. But
I think it is a bass six, actually. I don't know why I know that, though. But
I was like, man, that could be interesting to try at the end of this song. And it wasn't like a thing I was totally married to, but every time it comes on, when I listen back to it, like, oh, I'm cool. I'm glad that like this did appear on the album because it kind of gave that ending even more of like a wavy sort of space out vibe to it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's got that kind of, I guess the culturally insensitive shorthand would be a kind of Middle Eastern sort of feel, that drone, anything it's got a drone note is like we're
and that's what Rain kind of
Yeah.
that feel that Beatles song at the end kind of has that Middle Eastern kind of drony feel.
Absolutely. Nick?
Well, I don't know what you guys are talking about because no, I'm just kidding. No, my take on this song. I'm going to do the channeling. Who am I channeling? I'm channeling Marky Smith from The Fall.
Nice.
That's what I had in my head.
Yeah. Okay.
The pins removed.
Right.
I'll admit it. I'll cop to it.
Sure.
That's where that started. Usually that'll start like that, and then it'll get, adopted and transformed. The topic of the song's a bit kind of like post-apocalyptic, celebrating, dancing in the debris of it all. That's kind of what I had in my head. Maybe that came from post-pandemic, subconscious, could be, but that is always what I had in my head with lyrically and singing. Was not a whole lot of lyrics on it, but that's what I think of. Just sort of the end of the world. Let's celebrate, kind of a funeral. It's a funeral song, basically. And I don't know about this prog stuff, so maybe I do get the Sonic Youthy sound at the end, but
well, Lanigan
that's
had
my
blues funeral. Maybe you have prog funeral. Who knows?
Perhaps. This song is basically a funeral for progressive rock. No, that's the stupidest thing I've ever said. I fire myself from this band. I'm done. Bye.
It was a good run, everybody.
Yeah.
Back it in.
Yeah, then we broke up right on Protonic Reversal.
Not the way you would expect. Yeah, it's
everything was fine,
odd.
and then he just exploded. But that's interesting to hear you guys talk about this stuff. Cool. Wow, we're really really good.
That's kind of the point of doing this on the show. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm
people
learning
have
a lot about my own band.
People have something to say about the music. It's interesting. Who knew?
Yeah, not bad.
Biology of Time. Noah, hit us with
guys,
this. I was gonna say we got a guest. We got an on-screen guest here.
This is Cooper.
Hey, Cooper.
Cooper, can you say hello?
Cooper, do you have thoughts on the song? For the audio,
he's listened to it a
dog
lot.
on screen.
He's been very good chilling out while I sit in my office longer than I usually do. He's already patient with me for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
But Biology of Time, this was actually the very first thing these Shaun and Nick had sent me, and that was kind of my digital tryout as I popped it into GarageBand, and then I added a bass track. I was like, oh, what do you think about this? And all I did with this one was I followed Nick, and I didn't want to add anything too busy, but that bridge section, I guess I do have a bass solo in for a moment, or a bass riff in, but otherwise, this is one of those, this should be like Nick and the drums just kind of like driving down, and just, I'll add the condiments, so to speak, on this song. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, I mean, there's some kind of the riffs are pretty catchy, but there's kind of like interesting time signature stuff going on, secret prog style. Nothing wrong with that. Nick, this one.
Yep, it was one of the first ones we wrote. It seems like, I'm going to be honest here. It seems like it's the one that might get cut the first. Like, we had that in mind. The other songs were coming up, and you know how it goes. You can't keep them all unless you're guided by voices. And then you play 70 song sets.
Right.
But
everyone loves it because they're all like 45 seconds.
Play 20, 40 song sets.
Right.
But since we recorded it, and hearing how people really latched onto it and seemed to like it, it keeps on living. I tied it all together. It's just two riffs. It's just, unless I'm not remembering it right, it's just a simple banger, and Biology of Time. What is time? Is it alive? Yeah, I don't know. It's poetry. I'm a beat poet, so I can take that and take words and like make magic out of it. So
Get some bongos going, maybe.
Yeah, it's just whatever you want to choose your own adventure lyrics. It's riddle poetry. That's I heard someone say in an interview.
That's
It's like,
that's good.
I got to write a song about something, and I don't write like that riddle poetry lyrics. And I'm like, oh shit, I write riddle poetry lyrics.
Called out.
Oh boy, geesh. But there's nothing better than misheard lyrics, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, that whole.
And we do include the lyrics in this album. That's on the inside of the Obi card. If you buy the album, it's sort of hidden. They're hidden in there.
I was going to ask because I thought that was the case, but I don't think they're on the Bandcamp, unless I am.
Oh, no.
Unless
you have to buy the album, I guess.
Incentivize them to people to buy it.
Yeah. And it's fun seeing people post the pictures of them holding it up going, oh my God, I never looked. There's your words. And it's like,
yeah, there it is. It's a nice little. Did you ever see that? There's a book that came out years back called "Excuse Me While I Kiss This Guy." This guy,
yeah.
It's got there's a bathroom on the right. It's got all the malapropisms that people have misheard lyrics over the.
Oh
years.
yeah.
It's a great. It's a great.
Oh man, those are
classic coffee table book.
I'm not going to take that away from people if they want to think something. And it means
Sweet dreams are made of cheese.
Oh my God, the list goes on and on. It's so much fun. More Than a Feeling is born on a river.
Yeah. Everybody's got a hungry horse. Yeah, Wrapped Up Like a Douche is classic.
Wrapped Up Like a Douche.
Yeah.
My favorite one. These guys have heard this song, but a friend of mine told me, not to name drop here, but Mike from Uncle Tupelo, the drummer, said when he was a kid, the song "Big Jet Airliner" by Steve Miller, the chorus, the big old jet airliner. When he was a kid, he thought it was Bingo, Chet, and Lionel, and it was about a boy with three dogs, Bingo, Chet, and Lionel, and they would take him on trips. Don't carry me too far away.
Right.
Like they knew to not go too far. God, that was so incredibly cute. That's a misheard lyric.
That is definitely a misheard lyric. When I was a kid,
you need to keep that. That's the meaning of Jet Airliner. Damn it.
Now it is. My dad was a big AC/DC fan, and I played Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, which when I was a kid I thought was Dirty Deeds and the Dunder Chi, which I assumed was an Australian creature of some sort. Like,
what is it called? Because I'm writing that down. You just named our next album.
Dunder Chi.
Dunder. Oh, but I heard it as Dunder Chief. All one word.
Thunder Chief is another one you could do. Like I suggested that as a band name for something long, and be like, no, it sounds like Breaking Wind. It's like, okay.
Dunder Mifflin, like The Office.
Yeah, but I sung it for literal years, singing Dunder Chi, and I assumed it was an Australian thing. They're from Australia. They got different animals there. They got kangaroos, koalas, Dunder cheese. They're all around.
Definitely venomous.
Exactly.
Kill you in a nanosecond.
Probably has a pouch. Who knows? Yeah.
Yep. Only snake with a pouch.
Exactly. You don't want to cross them. Shaun, Biology of Time. Tell me about it.
This one is cool to me because it started with drums. And the first time Nick and I played together, after the first time, he said, send me some drums. And I had never really done that. I played by myself, obviously, but I had never said, here's a bunch of beats.
Yeah.
Do something. And he said, I love doing that. I want to do it. And I sent him a few. It's a total in my head. Sheer Accident is one of my favorite bands all time.
Yeah.
Tim Jones is my favorite drummer. To me, it sounds like something he would do in a 7/4 song to make it sound even more not like 7/4. And it was one that I just sent to Nick, and he came up with that riff. And I think there were a handful of those that we tried that we probably still have on the phone somewhere, but I think this is the only one that actually happened that way. And then I remember Noah telling me how the first time he got it, he thought, what the hell's going on here? which made me feel great about it. I thought it was cool that we had made something that, you know, a musician who is very talented would listen to the first couple times and think, what is this?
Huh? What's happening with this?
So that was always cool to me about it. And it's probably it is one of the earliest ones. We played it a lot, and like Nick said, it might be one of the first to go, but it'll always kind of hold a place.
Well, there's something to be said for that too, right? And like and also songs can cycle in and cycle out, you know, like it's fine. You don't have to, they don't have to be dead for forever, you know. You can keep on living, so to speak. If that's more your vibe. It's all about the callbacks, kids. All right, closing out the record. Mission. Nick, tell us.
Mission. I was thinking about this song today, and it's the song. I don't know. I struggle with this one. I'll be quite honest. I struggle that it's too simple. I always kind of like, I don't know about this song, and those two guys always save it, and they go, "No, it's great. It's great. Just keep." And but the thing that really I have to remember is the themes and the lyrics. I really love. I really love that. I'm proud of the ending on this song. Lyrically, it has a strange imagery in my head when I'm singing it. All I can think of, it's kind of about war. It's about war, and I'm definitely channeling some Jazz Coleman of Killing Joke. That kind of bellowing. Melodic bellowing, I guess I could say. But yeah, at the end, it's just me hanging on that one chord, and I don't know. It's always a sleeper hit with me, and I don't know why I formed that opinion early on. It's not complicated enough or something. And
Right,
I had that in my head, like it lacked something. But then when I really think about it, like it might have come together easy to me, but it is lyrically and vocally one of my favorites. So I'd be interested to hear what these guys said about that one.
Well, let's find out. Shaun, what do you think?
I agree lyrically. This sounds stupid, but I don't pay attention to words very often in music I like, bands I play in. Something really has to stick out for me to actually, that whole thing of not being able to understand what somebody's saying, if they're shouting or whatever, I don't care. I like the vocals. I'm not looking for, I'm not necessarily digging into what, I wasn't really the kid that would read the lyrics along with the record. I liked misheard lyrics. I liked having my own idea. This has a couple of those lines. 1,000 tiny TVs is the one that immediately puts a picture in my head. And I remember telling Nick that one time. And I think that last half of the song is, like he said, the same riff, but the lyrics make it. And funny, he would say Killing Joke too, because I love them and what they can do with such simplicity sometimes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But Jazz, between the lyrics and the way he sings and a subtle melody in the vocals, and maybe the main melody of the song is in the bass, just things like that. I love that about this song. The first part to me is just kind of a banger. I've said banger tonight more times than I ever have in my life, but
it's appropriate.
That's one of the reasons I
always
save it, because I just think it's such a solid song. And again, this was one that, I don't know why, but it never really occurred to me to be an ender, but that it ends the record so perfectly after Regular Multiplier and Biology of Time, which are, more major key, a little more upbeat sounding, a little happier. I think that one really, really ends the record well.
Definitely. Noah, thoughts?
So we wrote this in about 2 hours at a practice on a Sunday afternoon.
Nice.
And not much has really changed from it. We had an intro to this song initially, where it was the same riff that you hear to start the song, but like kind of a build-up. But after we cut that. It's been kind of just, it stayed course. And to me, I know Nick was just saying that, like, you know, his stuff is super simple, but that's definitely the song where I feel like Shaun and I kind of shine at the end of the song with the kind of swing groove there is to it. And kind of a walking bass line as well. And that, for me, I feel like I'm kind of showing off my Nate Mendel from Sunny Day Real Estate influence, another big time influence from me. One of those guys where, again, I tend to prefer simple bass, but he is very melodic and tasteful with his bass playing in that band. So, yeah, a good closer, I thought, and I think everyone contributed just like the perfect amount. We didn't need to add anything really extra to this to make it sound cool.
Which is lovely. So there you go. That's the record, folks. That's Blurred Wires. That's
I learned a lot.
It looks like this. This is an Adam Marks cover, right?
Adam Marks, great artist.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This is
and
the
member of the
listeners
Seahorse.
Are like, what are they talking about? I can't see it. I'm listening to audio, but sorry, folks. We're looking at the record covers. What's happening?
And I want to comment on the record cover too. There's those little hearts coming off, and blurred wires. The word, like, people have asked, what does that mean? I said, oh, it's just kind of like communication, like going from is like a transmission, a wire, and sometimes things get lost in transmission. Then it ties in with misheard lyrics, and I don't know. I swear I don't smoke weed. It sounds like I do, but I don't. But that's all I wanted to say, man.
There you go. I think it's a hell of a record, boys. I think you put out one of my favorites of this year, so good on you. Which it's all about pleasing me, Conan Neutron. So congratulations.
We'll see you in a couple of months.
Yeah, worldwide fame and the Grammys are the next possible steps. What's coming up with Upright Forms? I know you got some
shows.
Got some shows, right?
Venturing out into the world.
That's right.
September 13th, we're playing Mortimer's here in town with the band Dallas Orbiter and a new band called Field Hospitals. Dallas Orbiter's new album. It's an album release show. And then playing a local show with Cloudland with the bands Toilet Rats and In Lieu. Then
In
we're
Lieu were great.
playing.
Yeah, I didn't know them from Moses until this Caterwall.
Yeah, they played Caterwall.
I love them.
It's funny about those guys. They practice across the hall from us in this practice place. I never knew who they were. But I really like, this band is so good, but they're so insanely loud. They were great. But they're like, oh my God, that's the band. Yeah. You guys are across the hall from us. So
I just assumed Truck played drums in that band too. And he's like, I don't play drums in this band. I'm like,
no,
my bad. I feel like
I
made a
song by the vending machine. It's like, oh, you're in that band across the hall. Like holy crap.
Yeah. That's pretty. And
then we're playing Madison at Mickey's with If I Had a Hi-Fi and Power Wagon.
That's right.
And that's on the 11th of October. And on the 12th, we're playing Promises with Power Wagon, If I Had a Hi-Fi, and Exit Statements. And
that one I will be at.
Okay.
That's in Milwaukee.
It's in Milwaukee. We'll be coming back from Detroit from playing with God Bullies. I should be there just in time.
Oh, my God.
So
that's played some shows with those guys. Then in November, we're playing November 15th in Chicago at the Burlington Bar with Torn Avalanche and Cougars. Playing with Torn Avalanche and Cougars the next night in Gabe's in Iowa City, the 16th of November.
Very good.
That's sounds like a good chunk.
Yeah, solid regional tour.
Yeah,
with
the day's radius stuff, the Weekend Warrior, which is
absolutely not all heroes wear capes on the weekend. Yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on the show and doing this. We'll have to do this round robin as well. That's how I close the show. Ask the only canned question on this show, which is why do you do what you do? So, Noah, you can start us off.
I do what I do to keep my sanity. If I don't play music, then I get a little too bored, and I don't know. Idle hands. I don't like them, so I like playing music instead.
Shaun, what do you do? What you do?
I like more than anything about all this just playing music with my friends. I like that feeling of when something comes together, and it's fun to do this. I appreciate you coming up with this idea because, like Nick said, I learned a lot. We haven't talked about these songs that much, and it's really fun to hear them say what, they remember about some of these things, because there's, on a record, there are 100 of those moments where something just clicks and you leave feeling like that was the greatest thing that could happen. And that's why I do it, for that feeling and, hanging with my friends and making music.
Nick.
Money, just flat out. I just do it to pay the bills, man. I got to get that green. No, I echo. I sometimes I feel like I just do it because my brain and body are on autopilot, and they go form a band and start thinking of riffs and get that itch, man. I got to get that itch, got to get going. And the best feeling in the world is writing a song and finishing it and recording and going to the studio and having your album done, and then you take that drive by yourself and you crank it up. Man, there's nothing better feeling in the whole world to, like, when I driving in my car, which I love the stereo in my Toyota Prius, just cranking that thing up and go, fuck yeah. And then eventually, it's going to wear off. But there's that honeymoon period, when you and it's really fun. And then you go, oh God, please don't play that. But at least, I don't know. I hope that time hasn't hit yet, but sometimes it does. But yeah, I don't know. That's a complicated answer to a simple question. But thank you.
I feel like I was too vague. So thank you, Nick, for elaborating.
Thank all you guys, Nick, Shaun, Noah. Thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate you guys. And,
thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it,
man.
Love the record. And if I don't see us, I was gonna say I'll see you in like a month and a half or however long it is. So
looking forward to it.
Sounds good. All right, take care, fellas.
Thank you,
man.
All right, there they go. Upright Forms, awesome dudes. Great record. You can pick up a copy of Blurred Wires at Skingraft, or also uprightforms.bandcamp.com. Here is one of the songs off of Blurred Wires. This is They Kept on Living.
Young repair, time in the lair, send up the flare. There's a monster stuck in the maze, frazzled and frozen. Surplus of the tomb, stolen from the womb, picked out from the gloom.
All right. They kept on living. Off of Blurred Wires by a little band called Upright Forms. Just check that out. Like I said, definitely one of my favorites of the year. So uprightforms.bandcamp.com, Skin and Graph Records, and if you're in any of the cities that they mentioned, go see them play when they come around. Listen, name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you so very much for listening to it. This show airs Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming here on YouTube and Twitch. Podcasted later everywhere you get your podcasts. Archived at protonicreversal.com. Always free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding. But if you like the show and you want to get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal achieves that goal and helps support the show as well. Thanks to everyone for liking, subscribing on your platform of choice, sharing the episodes around. All that helps people discover the show. Beats back the almighty algorithmic overlords. It's just a darn nice thing to do.
Signing off.
Yeah, thanks for sharing around. Appreciate it. What's coming up? Alan Johannes returns for a full episode this weekend, Saturday edition. That should be great. Looking forward to that. Then we got Dale Crover, Melvin's Red Cross, Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends. Dale Crover Band coming up. After that, Dwayne Dennis and the Jesus Lizard at the end of the month. Going to be an amazing month, folks. So, never been a better time to become a patron because you will not get better stuff than this free that I'm aware of. If so, please let me know about it.
Microphone turns sound into electricity.
What else? Anything? No, I think that's it.
Can you hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128, you're dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on.